telling you, when you get hungry, when you begin to pursue Him, when you have an open heart to Jesus, to God, to the Holy Spirit, and you begin to seek who Jesus is, I'm telling you, you will get His attention. Uh, and there again, Jesus, you got a picture. There was a crowd here. He couldn't see Jesus because of the crowd. So Jesus is surrounded by all kinds of people, and He's passing by. So He's just walking along, but something stopped Jesus dead in His tracks. And this is an amazing story. Something stopped Him. And here again, you know what I think it is? I think it was the fact that he's like that metal detector. He's walking along, passing through Jericho, but all of a sudden Zacchaeus climbs up in the tree, and something on the inside of Jesus just sensed that there's somebody seeking me. There's somebody who wants to know who I am. There's somebody hungry. There's somebody thirsty. And somehow, some way, supernaturally, Jesus stopped right in His tracks in the midst of a crowd of people and all that. And let's keep reading this. And then it says this, and Jesus came to the place. He stopped and He looked up and He saw him, Zacchaeus, and He said to him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. That's an amazing thing to me. I mean, here's somebody who's rejected by society, who's looked down upon by all the people around him. He's probably taken his life into his own hands, even being out in the crowd because the people hated him, because he was robbing them and stealing from them. And yet Jesus looked beyond all that and looked right into Zacchaeus' heart. And what did He see? He saw somebody open, somebody hungry, somebody seeking Him. And the Bible says, you shall seek me and you shall find me when you seek me with all of your heart. And what I'm saying to you, no matter what you've been through, no matter how you feel about yourself, if you will hear about Jesus, open up your heart and say, Jesus, I want to know you. I want to find out who you are. I want to seek you. And it's even okay. I want to know if you're real. I want to know if you're who you say you are. That's okay with Him, because He will respond to that. You can stop Him dead in His tracks, just like Zacchaeus did, just by being hungry, just by being open. See, the eyes of the Lord go to and fro over the whole earth, looking to show Himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are turned towards Him. So, to me, He stopped Jesus right in His track and just said, Zacchaeus, you come down, because I'm going to go to your house today. And here's what I love about Jesus, just like the woman at the well. I mean, He wasn't supposed to talk to this woman, been married 5 times. He wasn't supposed to get involved with this woman caught in adultery. He wasn't supposed to talk to this woman or even be touched or touched her that had the issue of blood. He wasn't supposed to talk to this sinful woman, a prostitute. But see, Jesus, He looked beyond all of that. He was like that metal detector. And each one of them, He detected a treasure. He detected something special. And just like He will inside of you, because it's in you, and if you'll open up to Him, you'll stop Him dead in His tracks, and He will come to your house today, just like it says, Zacchaeus, today I'm going to come to your house. And so this is an amazing thing. And let me show you what happens after this, okay? And then it says, and so He made haste and come down, and He received him joyfully. But when they saw it, being the crowd, the religious people, and see, here's how the church would respond too. When they saw it, they all complained, saying, He has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. Do you see that? This is the real Jesus. He goes places that we don't think He would go. He does things that we don't think He would do. He touches people's lives that religion and the world says, hey, they're outcasts, they're no good, they're sinners. See, the religious people got upset with Jesus. Why? Because He went to a sinner's house to stay with him and to have dinner with him. And that's the way the religious world is today. But I'm telling you, Jesus is a friend of sinners. I told you last week that Paul said, this is why Jesus came into the world, to save sinners, of whom I am the chief of all sinners, And He came to seek and to save that which was lost. And so the religious people get mad at Jesus, but He doesn't care. See, I believe if Jesus came today, He'd go a lot of places that would ruffle a lot of religious feathers. He would talk to a lot of people that religious people wouldn't talk about. See, that's the real Jesus. He cares about you. He loves you. And He's not into religion. He's not into rules. He's not into man's law, but He's looking for treasure. And so He sees this treasure in Zacchaeus. He goes to his house. And then it goes on to say, and Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, Lord, look, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I will restore it 4 times, okay? And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to your house because he also is the son of Abraham. And you know, so to me, this is such a beautiful story. And this is a picture of who the real Jesus is. You know, he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And you see, how do you know when something happens like this, when there's a real change? Because you see a man like Zacchaeus, he's changed from the inside out. A man who was probably greedy, a man who was stealing from people, robbing people, and one encounter with Jesus. Why? Because he wanted to know who Jesus was. And Jesus came to his house, and just this one encounter with Jesus changed Zacchaeus from the inside out. And all of a sudden, the man who was a robber and a thief and stealing and you know, deceiving people, he began to be a tremendous giver. He gave, it says here that he gave, it says he gave half of all that he had to the poor. And if he stole from anybody, he didn't just repay him. He repaid him 4 times over. What a change. What a transformation, you see. And it all happened by one encounter with the real Jesus, you know. And so I hope that encourages you, you know, because really, what does that tell me? You know, if you'll just be hungry, if you'll just be open, and you'll just cry out to the Lord, and you just, you know, just like Zacchaeus, you make an effort to say, Jesus, I want to know you. I want to know who you are. I'm telling you, you'll get his attention, and he will come to your house. You know, it reminds me of one of my favorite scriptures in Revelation. And when Jesus was talking, he said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. You know, and that's really, you know, even in this program right now, that's what he's really doing. You know, that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking, I'm sharing the gospel. And it's like he starts knocking on the door of your heart, you know, like Zacchaeus. And he said, but if anyone, that includes you, will open the door, Jesus said, I will come in. Just like he went to Zacchaeus' house, he came in, and all of a sudden a relationship was formed that changed Zacchaeus. It's the same with you. He stands at the door of your heart and he knocks. But here's the thing. You have to open the door and let him in. Just like Zacchaeus had to welcome him into his home, you have to welcome him into your heart. And if you'll just open that door, ask him to come in, I'm telling you, he will come in and sup with you. He'll start a relationship with you that will change you, and you will never be the same. And so hopefully you enjoyed that story, you know, and you can relate to that. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing a Jesus who came to qualify the disqualified. So hopefully that brings encouragement and hope to you. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. And then we're going to take a look at one more man who also stopped Jesus right in his tracks after this. Independence is known for so many great things. You gotta love the Gulf. Great education, a rich history and culture. A downtown you just gotta love. The park, the zoo, the aquatic center. And besides all these things, Independence is the home of Crystal Brook Church. We believe you can come and experience God, and you can find a real relationship with Him right here at 15th and Chestnut, Independence, Kansas. Hey, and don't forget the food. Well, welcome back. And before we end today's program, we just have a few minutes. And, you know, we looked at Zacchaeus, and we've looked at several women that Jesus encountered. And we talked about, you know, in the first part of the program, how Zacchaeus, because he wanted to know who Jesus was, he sought after him, stopped Jesus dead in his tracks, and Jesus ended up going to Zacchaeus' house. But there's another story about another man in the Bible who stopped Jesus dead in his tracks. And what's the point? You know, the point is this, that, you know, Jesus is like that metal detector. If he can detect somebody is hungry, somebody's wanting to know who he is, somebody's reaching out to him, you can stop him dead in his tracks. You'll get his attention. He will come and knock on the door of your house, and all you got to do is open up and let him in. And this story, though, is found in the book of Mark, chapter 10 and verse 46. And like I said, we'll just get started here today, but and maybe we'll pick up here next week. But this is the story of a man called blind Bartimaeus. And it starts out in verse 46, and it says this: Now they, being Jesus and his disciples, Now they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho, and you know, one of the things that I think is interesting about that is that he came to Jericho and he left Jericho. And it doesn't say anybody was touched, anybody was healed. And you know, and it's just like when he was passing by Zacchaeus. If Zacchaeus hadn't, I don't think, been hungry and reached out to him, Jesus was going to go right on through. It says he was passing through Jericho. And in the same way, it says here that he came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho, you know, and what's the point? The point is that he responds to our hunger. It's when we seek him that we find him. When we knock, that it's open. When we ask, that we get the answer, you know. And so we see the story how Jesus is passing out of Jericho, and his disciples and a great multitude were with him. And blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. He was a blind man, which in a way was like a pauper, like a man that was a beggar, you know, looked down by most of society. You know, most of the time back there, they thought you must have done something really wrong if you were blind or sick or whatever. And so the society, religion looked down upon him, and he was sitting by the side begging. And it says this, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, see there again, there's the thread that runs through there. The woman with the issue of blood, when she heard about Jesus. Zacchaeus, when he heard about Jesus, he wanted to know who he was. And here we see it again. Bartimaeus, when he heard that it was Jesus, they heard about Jesus. And in the same way, you know, that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you about Jesus. And maybe somebody for the first time, you're hearing about Jesus and how he came to seek and to save that which was lost. He's reaching out to you. But anyway, when he heard about Jesus, he responded, and he cried out and said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy upon me. And then here we go, the religious group, the crowd looked at him, and they warned him. They said, you know, be quiet. Basically, to shut up. He doesn't care about you. You know, he's got more important things to do. You don't count. You know, you don't qualify. But I'm telling you, that's not the way Jesus is. He responded to this cry. But I love what blind Bartimaeus, you know, did. He didn't be quiet. He cried out all the more, the Bible says. See, what does that tell me? He was hungry. He was desperate. He was sick and tired of being sick and tired. He realized this is my one chance, my one opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm not going to let it pass me by. And so I believe if you're listening to me, this is an opportunity for you to respond, to call upon the name of the Lord, and you can stop him. Jesus will stop for you too. And so he cried out all the more. He said, Son of David, have mercy upon me. And then in verse 49, I love these words, and Jesus stood still. Wow. Just like Zacchaeus, he stopped. And what stopped Jesus was this cry, this thirst, this hunger, this desperation. And it stopped Jesus in his track. And it says, and Jesus stood still, commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying to him, be of good cheer, rise, he is calling. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. You know, what a beautiful story. You know, it's kind of like Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. And in the same way, you know, in a way in this program, it's like Jesus is passing you by today. And, you know, here's an opportunity for you to respond. You know, just like Zacchaeus climbed up in the tree because he wanted to know the real Jesus. He wanted to see who Jesus was. And if you want to know the real Jesus, if you want to have a relationship with him, you know, all you have to do is open the door. You know, once again, he said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hear my voice, open the door, I will come in and I will sup with him. In other words, he wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to do for you what he did for Zacchaeus. He wants to do for you what he did for blind Bartimaeus. And again, just like the other women we talked about, you will never